Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are talking today about gaining more leads and having more time for clients with outsourced partners. And the partners that we're talking about specifically are smith.ai, which is a virtual receptionist and live web chat company, and GMS Live Expert, which Randy Gould, who is here joining me today, will describe to you and then share a little bit about what our agenda is for the next hour.
Thanks, Maddie, and welcome everybody. My name is Randy Gould. I am the Director of Business Development here at GMS Live Expert. And today we're going to talk about valuing your time, how do you keep high performers in your organization, build the help desk or buy it, and some essential MSP support features that we have. So we'll get to that, but I'll give it over to Maddie so she can continue and we'll speak to you in a little bit.
Thanks, Randy. So yeah, let's talk about capturing and converting new clients. And just to set the stage, the reason why I'm coming to you with this information today is because as receptionists for small businesses, in particular, managed service providers and IT firms, we have handled over 1 million conversations for them. So we know what works, what doesn't, and what systems they're using to build efficiency and gain more time and balance in your work life so that when you're running a business, you're doing so productively, profitably, and professionally. So our goals and objectives within my portion of this presentation for capturing and converting more leads and doing so with the help of outsourced teams is to identify the core disciplines of lead capture, screening, and conversion, review the basics of implementing the best lead conversion systems, and then identifying advanced techniques for how to maximize the impact of these systems, as well as steps to take that perfectly align with your business needs so that you're not wondering, okay, there's a lot of theory. Maddie and Randy shared a ton of opportunities with me, but what do we actually do here to implement these processes, and how do you take that approach? So I will give you some action steps. Now, one of the things that I want to highlight is that if you're feeling like you are maybe not quite thriving and your time is spread too thin, you're not alone. So we know that there's a lot of wasted time, not only in recovering from interruptions, 23 minutes on average. And if you're interrupted on average 6 times a day, that's a 2-hour loss per day, just from the recovery time from the interruption. But that 2 out of 3 potential clients say that their decision to hire is most influenced by the responsiveness to a first call or email or even website chat or text message. So what does that mean? It means that people demand a quick response time, but then you pay the price if you're answering every single call, not to mention spam and sales calls. Now, the other issue is that even after you have the consultation, there's a lot of wasted time there because 59% of people aren't hiring a pro even after a consult. So if you are spending time on these assessments, on this consultation, on the phone or video chat or in person, the issue is that that is not necessarily a great use of your time if you haven't done a really good job screening before the consult or charging for the consult. Now, 86% is the amount of money that is collected from earnings on average for a service professional. And the issue is there that, like, if your systems aren't set up so that you can take credit cards and you can take ACH and e-check and things like that, you can waste a lot of time and money following up or having a collections agency follow up on payments of work that you did complete. So how do you build in those systems with online payment, online invoicing, integrating that into your systems so that when you do get these leads or when they're paying you for a consult or a first initial agreement, you are seeing that revenue in your bank account right away? It's really important. So what can you do? You can adopt cost-effective and efficient systems for handling these communications with new potential clients, filtering them effectively and consistently, scheduling them so there's a next step that they're taken down the lead conversion funnel. And if you're available, great, there can be a transfer. If you're not available, then there can be a callback or a consult scheduled on your calendar with limited access to the information for the outsourced team so that all they see is your availability, not actually what you are busy doing if you're not available. Then there is the step of the assessment or the intake, so getting the full picture of what the client needs, taking payment as necessary, and then how can we also use outsourced teams to check in with these new clients, make sure that they're happy, and generate referrals for people who may contact you who are not a good fit for your firm, for your company, but who could be a great source of potential future revenue if you identify to them what you do so that they can refer people to you. And also if they have a need in the future that does meet your services, that they know to come to you because you took the time to inform them. So the systems that we're going to look at and the solutions for outsourcing that we're going to look at have to be affordable, obviously, and without commitment. One of the main benefits of outsourcing is the flexibility that allows you, and also the paying per instance or unit or user, whatever the case may be. You're not paying for someone's salary and responsible for that livelihood. You are responsible for only paying for the work that you are committing to with the company you're contracting with, because you know that there is work being left on the table or inefficient use of time or leads not being captured. So it's really important that you don't have the long-term commitment of a salary, but that you have the understanding that you will be paying for the work that is done, which is very valuable for small and medium businesses. Now, it should be easy to use and monitor, and obviously as a business owner or operator, even if you're outsourcing, it's absolutely critical that you have tools to monitor the team, because it is a representation of your brand, whether they're talking to a new lead or, as Randy will share, speaking with a potential or an existing client. Now, they should also be comprehensive as much as possible, and that's why we're bringing this webinar in today, to talk about before the person is a client, how can we outsource those conversations and capture those leads? And then once they are a client, how can you have the follow through on the technical support that's required and that you promised and that you're retained to do? So it's really important that you are consolidating as much as possible, that there isn't one answering service for a phone call and a web chat. Randy will talk about the fact that they do multi-channel support, and that is our same ethos here at Smith AI. It's really important that if you have directions for one company you're outsourcing to on the phone, that when you have another person who's answering web chats, for example, on your site, that they're using the same message, that they convey the same tone, and that they have the same objectives in mind. Now, with that said, if you are outsourcing to humans, and we talk a lot about AI in this space, it's really important that you do give people proper discretion, whether it's technical, and Randy will get into that, or whether it's screening potential clients. We really recommend at Smith AI that you give us discretion to make good decisions based on the information you've provided on your behalf, because more work gets done that way, and oftentimes the risk is very low. So someone, may have been scheduled on your calendar who's not a great potential fit. Well, then we reassess and we say, next time, handle it this way. But if you don't have the opportunity to have that conversation because the receptionist had discretion, you never learn about opportunities for improvement for your process. So what we are going to look at today is ways to give you more time and take work off your shoulders by outsourcing. And these remote and virtual services that I'm speaking to are, in our instance, US-based and live staffed, but powered by an AI software that allows them to be very effective and accurate and efficient. Now, there are a number of ways that potential clients can be handled. It could be simple receptionist call, message taking, taking messages on your site, or intake once that stage has been met. And then there's also conversations on live chat that we see happening, because it's a very efficient use of people's time to be able to vet a new potential contractor, MSP, while they are at work at their desk. So how do we put human and machine intelligence together here for really excellent outsourced solutions? It's about using them the way that they should be used. So when we look at human intelligence, we think about sentiment, we think about content. So when the best example that I have around machine and human intelligence kind of coming together in the best possible way is that we use technology to strengthen the human experience that people still do demand. So let's think of web chat for a second. We have a human receptionist who is answering chats on your website. There are people who are kind of kicking tires, trying to determine, are you the right managed service provider for their company? Wonderful. We love to have those conversations. Now, let's say that you have a Spanish language focused company that is looking at you. You do serve a bilingual audience, let's say clients. If the receptionist is, let's say, English and French speaking, but not Spanish speaking, a variety of different language capacities on our team, then that person who's speaking Spanish can actually write in Spanish in the chat. The English speaking receptionist can see it translated in real time in English, but convey the understanding, the comprehension, the continuing of the conversation in a productive way to determine if that potential client is a good fit for your company, and it gets translated back in Spanish. You're not going to have teams that instantly learn a new language, but in this way, you have the expert who's able to communicate, and then the language translation through the machine intelligence. And this also comes into play with the ticketing and CRM systems that you're using, the lead nurturing system you're using, the email software program, whatever the case may be, those automations and those triggers, they're set up by you, but the capacity is within the software itself. So when we look at these two separate entities, it's about capacity. With humans, it's about intelligence and sentiment capacity, for example. With machines, it's about the actual speed and feature scope in terms of capacity. And what that leads to, hopefully, is way more effective lead conversion, which brings me to this flow. Now, again, keep in mind, this will be available as a replay, so you can review this at your own pace. I know that we're going through topics very quickly, but I want to make sure that we have this framework before we move into the recommendations for how to outsource really effectively. So let's all get on the same page here. We have a generation period and then a capture and conversion period. The generation period has to do with how people are finding out about your MSP. Are they referrals from clients or friends or partners? Are they reviews online? Are they local listing sites? Is it paid per click campaigns and other paid search and display? Are you really active in social media? Do you provide a lot of content and freebies around how to assess if your company is running the best possible IT solutions? There's also, of course, technical SEO and link building that's available. Then people contact you. They found out about you and they determine they want to reach out. They're going to use phone, email, web chat, and increasingly texting. We find that clients are very interested in leads, are very interested in texting. They're used to, in their apps, typing messages to businesses. They're used to texting their local plumber and whoever is a contractor for them. So that behavior is more and more ingrained. So if you're not opening up all 4 of those channels, I really encourage you to do so. And you can outsource all of those channels for new leads. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, the response method, who is responding to that text or that email or phone call? Very often for a small business owner, and even for medium-sized businesses, it's in-house staff and even the owner or operator. It oftentimes, especially in the small business space, we find that with the MSPs, there are people who are very technically proficient and able to complete a lot, we'll say, more technical, more advanced work that are answering phones, because that's just part of their job. Everyone helps answer phones. That is an inefficiency, and that is a waste of time. So keep in mind here, the opportunity cost of who responds is a true cost to you. That person who's a technician, that person who is an owner, has better things to do that are more valuable to your company and to its growth than having someone else do it, whether that's a receptionist or an AI service, a live chat agent, etc. Now, the qualification step happens after this initial response. And what this means is, how are we screening these new leads to determine if they're a good fit? If they are, then we go into the intake and assessment and hopefully the retainer and the client agreement. And then if they're not, we do the referral to a firm that we recommend. We only work with commercial versus residential clients. for residential, we really recommend this other firm. And maybe they even give you a bounty for a new client that you've passed their way, which is absolutely a nice secondary revenue stream. There are even opportunities during that conversation to explain what you do, so that if someone does have a need on the commercial side, or they find out from a friend their business has a need, they can refer or they can use you because they're well informed about what you do. So take that time to do that kind of educational step. Now, there is a period where you may have that basic intake and assessment, and they may say, wow, it sounds like you're the right fit for us, and they just don't act on that agreement. So how do you have some machine intelligence and some follow-up through outsourcing with outbound calls through outsourced teams that follow up on those leads for you and ask them if they're ready to make a commitment? Because that is another thing that you don't necessarily have to do yourself. So here are a few steps that I recommend. I really recommend that if you are in a very solo or small business, that you're not using your personal cell phone, that you have a basic VoIP phone system set up. And increasingly, we're seeing that SIP phones, where you can answer calls from your laptop directly on a soft phone, allow you to not be toggling between devices, and it saves you time by having just a singular system for having all of your communications. Now, I also recommend that you set expectations really properly, and that when you have teams who are handling conversations for you by phone, that maybe you determine the really important hours to pay for in that regard, and don't pay for the hours where you're only having people staffed, but the calls aren't really coming through. So it's important that you are good stewards of your budget and your resources, and that if you have after hours, for example, on your website, do you need live chat staff or do you need AI? On your phone, do you set expectations with an after hours voicemail? So if you don't, how does a new lead who gets in touch with you, who may reach you or your voicemail, that it's not that they're reaching your voicemail and that you don't answer your phone, but they've reached you after business hours? And what does that result in? It means that they're going to be more patient to let you call them back, because they understand it's after hours and you don't have the ability to call them back right away, instead of going to find another firm who will be responsive because they answer their phone. So think about how you are properly setting up those systems, and also tracking the phone calls that are coming in. If you're not using a phone number tracking system for different marketing channels, it's very hard to base to have a full view of how the campaign is performing if you are getting a lot of calls. So have dedicated numbers. You can even have dedicated numbers to VIP clients. We see a lot of MSPs who are even upcharging for that access and ability to connect with outsourced technical teams, outsourced receptionists. You can actually pass on the cost of these outsourced services to the clients to whom it's most valuable to have that increased access, if you so choose, by offering sort of a VIP service tier. Now, I will caution you to be very aware of ring delays and latency. We're seeing a lot of this. And also make sure you have a phone system that is blocking spam, because what you don't want to do is not answer your phone because you're sick and tired of hearing Marriott call you. What you really want is to make sure that people who do reach you, you're able to identify on your phone that it's a business call. So if you're using your cell phone, having a VoIP phone that is an app, and then also making sure that you're auditing your phone system. We find a lot of folks just set up their phone systems and they don't actually audit them. And what happens is, and I hear this really often, I will be on the phone, it's like 6-7 rings until it finally connects because of the routing in the tree and also latency with certain service providers. And then on your side, you're only hearing one ring. So you're thinking, I'm doing exactly what Maddie told me to. I'm picking up after one ring. Look at me go. And then you're wondering why you're not seeing as much performance from your marketing campaigns. Well, actually, it could be the case that you have latency in your phone system. So don't make the assumption, know, and you can know by checking and doing just a simple audit or having someone do an audit on your team of your phone system. Can you get through, and can you get through quickly? Now, if you're using a receptionist service for outsourcing your calls, make sure that you are using a service that is comprehensive, that can actually handle the entire workflow from start to finish. So it's really like ancient old news to have people taking messages for you and saying, okay, someone's going to call you back. What you really want is, if there's a new lead who is calling, to say, this process is to determine through screening questions if it's a good fit for your firm. If so, try and then transfer. If not available for a transfer, don't just take a message, schedule a callback on your calendar based on your availability, so that that's locked in, and that there's not phone tag later, or I'm going to email you and call because I missed you. And that whole message taking system of an answering service is really not that valuable. So if you are going to outsource more comprehensively so that you get more bang for your buck. The ROI is there. And if you use these services in the past and you didn't see the ROI, I would challenge you to assess whether or not you really handed off as much as you possibly could based on the abilities of that service provider. Also, you do need to audit this as well. So make sure that when you're getting started, you're clear about pronunciations of names, your business name, and key staff members. And then also, you need to audit it and make sure that your directions are being followed, especially early on, so that that service knows that they are going to be held accountable, because you are accountable as a business to protect your brand, and you want to make sure that your clients and leads are getting a consistent message every single time. Now, with email communications, there can be significantly reduced back and forth by embedding things like calendars into your system, and then having your CRM also connect so that conversations are logged and that you're not looking through trying to figure out, where did that conversation go? Did I pass it off onto my salesperson or onto my technical person? And if people are not converting, not individually emailing them like, oh, I'm just checking in to see if you're now interested in hiring us or having a retainer, but instead setting up smart tools like email nurturing drips, where after you have a call, maybe that client's not yet ready to make the decision to retain or hire you to be their MSP, but you send them emails over a certain cadence and period of time, once a week, let's say for 6 weeks. Here are my testimonials. Look at all these happy clients. Here's a video, and here's an example of this type of expertise that I have in my years of experience in this field. And here's a highlighted staff member who's a technical member of my team, to give you an example of the level of service you'll receive with us. So those are examples of ways that you can really initiate, consistently and follow up, so that you can evaluate the performance of your campaigns and get a lot more out of them. The leads will convert if you set these systems up. With web chat, really recommend that you at least do a test of determining, are people who are coming to your website or even your Facebook page, I'm kind of including web chat in that as well, are they good potential clients? Are they just tire kickers? Do you have a ton of SEO, or are you doing very targeted paid search campaigns? Or the people who are visiting your website, maybe it's not a lot of traffic, but you want to make sure you're converting them because they are really great potential clients who, once they do connect with an outsourced team member who's staffing that live chat, for example, and they have the ability to screen that lead and then to schedule an appointment with you for a live phone call follow-up or an in-person meeting, that you are actually capturing as many of them as possible, because many people don't read, we know this, and many people leave a site because they can't find the information that they're looking for, and live chat can be a delivery mechanism to say, you know, hi, we're raising our hand, we're here to help. You'd be surprised by how many good potential clients do need that prompt to say, okay, you know what, I do have a question, and it would be good probably for me to ask it right now. And AI has come a long way in terms of how it can not only have an initial greeting, but also help the live chat staff to predict the best response for certain questions, and then to also expedite the speed of responses. So if you're looking for software for web chat, make sure that it has both the live staffed component, where there are real outsourced teams that will manage those chats for you, handle that conversation, do the best job in converting that lead, and then also maybe after hours or in the beginning stages of the chat, how do you have that really fast response and then gather information so that there is a smart conversation that happens. Now, I'm going to move through this a little bit. The one thing that I want to emphasize here is that you don't have to get into all the nitty-gritty details and constantly regurgitate the same answers. Have a knowledge base, have an FAQ page, so that, and this is just an example of someone who's built in a knowledge base in a law practice, but also there are examples using help docs. There are great solutions out there that are extremely affordable for basic FAQ and a little bit more deep dive into, you know, what are the costs of services at your MSP? And you may have a pricing page, or you may go into a little bit more depth. That doesn't have to take up the bandwidth necessarily of that live chat agent. It may be better for the person to sort of like read themselves and self-select, so that the live chat agent can then help another person who is a good potential fit for your firm. With texting, if you have a landline and you don't have VoIP set up yet, and I'd be surprised in this audience if there are folks who are doing that, ZipWhip is a really amazing tool for adding texting to landlines, but more importantly for those of you who are using VoIP systems, that you can have automated text responses, so you're super efficient managing your time with this channel. It can be a huge time suck to be texting back and forth with clients. You're trying to get work done, your hands are busy texting. Even if you're using voice to text, it's just a huge distraction. How do you have automated responses to common questions? Tools like ZipWhip can allow you to do so. You can also track the time that you're spending with clients. You're thinking, oh, this client is demanding a lot of my time. You know, should I use a service like smith.ai or GMS to sort of outsource these communications? They're very technical in nature, or they're leads in nature. If you can identify the time spent on these channels, then you know exactly how much time there is available to you if you outsource those communications. And then as I'm sort of starting to wrap up here, I want to talk about the process, because you can't outsource until you have a clear identified process for handling routine communications, of which lead generation and lead capture is one of them. I encourage you to sit down and think about who are the best clients that you have had and that you want to attract. Identify those 5 questions that could get them with 80% accuracy, let's say. It's not going to be perfect. It's not an approximation of your personal ability as a business owner to have the perfect, you know, lead screening, and you know it when you see it. You have to outsource it, and to do so, you have to identify questions that pinpoint with a good degree of accuracy who is a good potential client for my firm. Do I only work with commercial, residential? Am I only working with businesses that are 1 to 2 people or many seats of users? And then if I have a consultation, you know, do I charge for that? How much time do I spend? What's the sort of process for the next step that I can hand off to a receptionist and say, you know what, I have set up Calendly, you can book an appointment for me, but because, you know, I want to make sure they're serious, I charge $30 for the initial consultation, so that, you know, I'm going to credit that to their first bill. It's not an extra cost to the leads who are serious, but I want to make sure that they have some skin in the game and that they're really serious about assessing the needs for an MSP to help their company. And then you can hand it off. So have this form posted online. You can have it automatically pass into your CRM once it's completed. So when you do have that call handoff, or when you do have that callback that you make to the client based on the scheduled time, that you have the information and you're well informed. And that's a really great lead experience to say, you know what, this person, this company is working very efficiently, and I have good faith that they will work efficiently for me because they're passing information. The person who called me was well informed and knows what problems I'm having and the opportunities available when we're working together and when I hire them to be their MSP. Then you have that sort of great initial experience where they're not regurgitating what their issue is again, because no one likes to do that. Make sure that also as part of this lead form that you ask for the source. It's really important that in the beginning stages, it's often overlooked. You say, I need a contact form. I need your name, phone number, email, how to reach you, basic details about your business. Why are you reaching my firm? Well, also ask them, how did they hear about you? What did they type into Google? You want to know exactly the source and the name down to the nitty-gritty detail, so that you can pass it back into the top of the funnel where you're generating leads and having better sources come through the ones that are moving the needle as much as possible for you. There are a couple examples that I will just leave here. You can pause the video and look at a couple examples of intake forms. These are actually in the legal space because they are great examples of complex, detailed information that adds another very technical, actually, service profession that we see that they're doing a very good job with intake. They also have a very high value to their time. It's quite similar in many ways to the IT profession, and also with the importance of screening. So keep in mind that when you're using online calendaring systems, they don't have to be expensive. Calendly is actually a free tool for one calendar type. Acuity and other solutions will also allow you multiple calendar types and payment integration. So if you charge for a consult, or if you want to have billing for certain calendar appointments with clients, you can integrate that into the scheduling workflow. Now, referrals, I mentioned that it is really important to refer out the bad clients who you've identified with your screening process, and to have more good leads come in. And how do you have more good leads come in? Well, you identify the partners in your community, but you are able to say, you know what, these partners seem to generate the best leads for us. I want more partners like that. I'm going to join a business networking group, or I'm going to go deeper into some of these professional Facebook groups that I'm a part of, because I see that these channels are working for me. And then I'm going to make sure that I reward them and I incentivize them to keep referring clients to me. I want to stay top of mind, so maybe I add them to my newsletter, my monthly newsletter, in addition to adding your new leads to your newsletter. So make sure your referral partners are informed. If you add new services, it is worth your time to reach out to them and say, we will have a recording, absolutely. Thank you for the question. We absolutely want to say to them, you know, this is the new service we're providing. Provide that education on your services, not just to your potential leads, but to your lead referral partners. You want to keep them actually most informed so that they know who to send to your business, and that they're not sending people who are not good potential clients. Now, as much as possible, integrate these communications into your systems. After every call, text, email, chat, you want to be in the loop. You want to see daily reports of the conversations that are happening on your behalf. So demand that of the services that you are outsourcing to. Just because you're handing off the conversation does not mean that you shouldn't see as things are happening, or on a daily basis. There's a dashboard, there's a report that gets sent to you. You want to have the ability to properly monitor work that's being done on behalf of the growth of your firm. So as I wrap up here, I want to talk about the game plan and the homework. So identify the amount of time that you spend communicating with and responding to leads for 1 week. And really think about who are the best potential leads that contacted you, who are not good leads, and what different qualities do they share with the good lead pool and the bad lead pool. And think about, what communications did I have with these folks that I could reasonably outsource or streamline or automate? Did that really have to be me? And push yourself beyond your comfort zone to say, truly, like, look in the mirror and say, do I need to spend my time doing this? If so, fine. If not, and you will see opportunities to hand it off, I encourage you to do so. And then prioritize these fixes by what's consuming the greatest time, what's being most urgent. And sorry for the lawyering mention here. This is actually also a deck that I share with attorneys who I work with. But put in the importance of technical, for example, instead of lawyer. What can only you do as a deep subject matter expert? That's what that's about. Scheduling and payments, most often time consuming and most easily outsourced. Data entry, lead follow-up, most easily automated. Pick 1, 2, 3 in the next 30, 60 days that are not going to overlap and muddy your data around what actually has an impact. And then as you assess the impact, don't just think about what's a quantitative impact. How many new leads are you getting? How much are they worth to you? How much revenue are they going to generate? Super important. Also important, how much time do you have to do other important work that is now free and available to you? Maybe it's just work-life balance. Maybe it's reduced stress. Maybe it's better sleep quality. So I encourage you to consider services like smith.ai. We do staff phone calls, both inbound and outbound, and website chat. And we have US-based receptionists who can carry out the entire workflow for you so we can handle the entire lead generation funnel and deliver outstanding results so that you win more and better clients that are worth your time, who you want to work with over a long period of time to generate a lot of profit and lifetime value from them, and that your marketing campaigns actually are performing because you're responsive to the leads that they generate. We have 5 stars on Trustpilot and Capterra, and plans start at just $60 to $70 a month. So I encourage you to sign up for a 10-call, 5-chat free trial. It lasts for up to 30 days. You can choose one or both services and just get the experience of handing off these communications that you can indeed hand off and pay per call or per chat so that you see the return on your investment through action. Thank you so much, and I'm going to pass it over to Randy. If you want to get in touch with us, our website is smith.ai, and we are offering $50 off your first month with the code GMS50. That's GMS50. Randy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Maddie. Good job. And good afternoon, everybody. And thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. As mentioned off the top of the webinar, my name is Randy Gould, and I am the Director of Business Development at GMS Live Expert. I've been sitting in the chair for 5.5 years plus, and I've actually been in the industry for over 10. So I do know of what I speak, and I do appreciate you being here. And I want to talk to you about valuing your time as a business owner. You got to wear multiple hats. It's consistency. So much of your focus is always shifting constantly. The lack of focus leads to feeling like you really are never doing enough and you get burnout. Some of the other things you got to worry about too is your level 3 tech working on level 1 issues, and are you really getting value for that resource? Which components of your workload can be outsourced, like the help desk and NOC or RMM, is those things that you can actually use to help increase your business. And also now, when talking about managing high performers, really, what's the cost of keeping your level 3 tech happy? Are you investing into a culture of loyalty, and are your employees engaged with the company? When we're talking about grinding tickets, being on-site, doing projects, we're talking about burnout, believe it or not, health risks. Evenings and weekends, do your guys have to carry a cell phone with them in order to, be able to be responsive to issues that are happening real time? And then, lack of internal growth. The tech thinks, is my current company just too small for my growth? Am I actually going to be able to grow with the company, or maybe should I be looking elsewhere? And that's obviously not something that you want when it comes to technicians and level 1 folks in your business. Actually, didn't want to move too quickly. When it comes to keeping high performers, the fact is, truth be told, folks, nobody's really going to care about your business as much as you do as the owner. And why would they? You have to assume all the business risk. The career path that you have for your employees. What's the succession plan? High performers really strive on challenges, but need to be consistently empowered. So what's your vision for their future? And can they see that growth? That's a big factor. I can tell you here at GMS, the average frontline help desk agent we have on average is about 7.5 years, with the industry at about 18 months. So we've figured out that secret sauce that I can tell you. When it comes to building out a scalable team, a lot of business owners are trying to overextend themselves. They take on way too much too early. In order to grow, you have to have really good processes in place. And the question that you have to ask yourself is, do you have sustainable business processes? Are you leveraging your team's passion? What do they like to do? Keep them engaged. With better retention and growth, you'll you'll understand that those folks will stay longer with you. It's really making them feel like they're part of the business. We do have a calculator on our website at gmslivexpert.com/calculator. Now, I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but what this basically does is it allows you to prognosticate your staffing levels based off of burden cost per employee. So how many techs do you have? What's their salaries, annual employment taxes? What's the IT spend per employee? We talk about capacity planning, working days, vacation days per year, days off for training. All of these factors play into what you actually have to do with your technician in order to figure out what the cost per employee is going to be. Turnover, that stalls growth because now you have to go back and start rehiring and trying to find the right person again. How many techs are you hiring a year? How many weeks does it take to train your tech? These are all things that you actually get to put in this program. And to be honest with you, it's not weighted in any specific direction. What it does is it basically kicks out an algorithm and says, okay, here's what your cost per employee is based off of your geographical region. So you've got to figure out, okay, if I work with GMS in an outsourced model, what are my costs compared to what it would be if I had to do this internally? Is there a tipping point? Where does it actually make sense? When you talk about must-haves, basically, you have to be able to gauge bulges in activity. Do you have an after-hours coverage plan? Do you get the right ticket to the right tech quickly enough so the person who's on the other end is engaged and we've got, sustainable action on that ticket? Being proactive and reactive. I mean, these are all very important things that you need to have. To run a successful MSP and help desk and NOC, you have to have PSA and RMM configurations done properly. You have to proactively take a look at tickets, really get ahead of the problem, not playing from behind. And truth be told, when you're talking about an outsourced model for help desk and NOC, help desk is always reactive to the end user. NOC is always proactive. So you try to get ahead of the problem before it actually happens. Analyze, do analysis, do root cause analysis on tickets, trend analysis. Always look at the customer experience and what they're seeing. Or do you find that your customers are, not calling your help desk because they don't find there's value or it's taking them too long to get in? Career paths for the technicians, if you're managing those folks, again, which goes back to a few slides ago. What are you doing to promote internally within your company? As a matter of fact, here at GMS, a lot of folks, we call our frontline agents mentors. That's, it goes back to our roots as a company doing e-learning. So what we've learned is when you foster the relationships internally, and our mentors then can become, after enough time on the front line, move into team leads, then into account management, and which is obviously growth in their career path. But they feel that we're investing in time into their education, into their professional development. So it's very important to promote internally within your company. And again, does your employee really feel that you're doing that? Now, the common outsource models are user or device based, covering all the devices and the users. Here at GMS, we don't actually just work with the user. The device is a subset of the user. So for us, it's help the person on the other end of the phone, regardless if it's a cell phone or a workstation, a tablet. It really doesn't matter. You've got to understand the specific gaps. Get a handle on what your utilization is. How many tickets are you doing across your customer base? Do you have 200 end users? Are you doing 30 tickets a month? Are you doing 80 tickets a month? So are you at realistically 40% utilization? Are you at 20%? Knowing what your actual volume is going to be. Talking about staff augmentation as well, our model is designed to help you increase your staff while minimizing the impact of the employee churn. So realistically, focusing your level 3 techs on what they want to do, not what they have to do. And what I mean by that is, you've got a level 3 tech who's answering level 1 questions. Well, he's really not being challenged enough. So if you've got a technician who's really focused on helping you grow the business, you can in turn utilize that tech to do on-site visits and do a network analysis and help with documentation, things of that nature. Do you have enough work to fill their day? Are they busy? Do they feel like they're making an impression and they're making are they helping you grow? What's the capacity? What's your process to train and monitor the agents? I'll give you an example for us here at GMS. What we do is we monitor our agents, make sure they're doing the things that they should be doing, and providing constructive criticism for them when they are in a situation where they're not really sure how to handle a situation. Is there opportunities where we have our MSPs who present challenges that maybe our mentors haven't seen before? And what's really nice about that is we're very good at being able to highlight to our mentors, here's how you might be able to do this differently. It's always a learning experience for us, because nobody has all the answers. And if I always say nobody's perfect. And if you are, well, you know where I'm going with that. So you got to manage expectation, really. Either model, you got to just make sure that, are you managing the customer's expectation? Because and Maddie, I truly believe this. I think people buy from people they like. And you might not be the best MSP on the block. And you might, but your people know they can trust you. They like you. They know that you're responsive. I'll give you a real world example that actually just happened recently to me, and I have a backyard pool, and I bought a pool pump from my pool store, and it died after 14 months. Like on Sunday, it wouldn't work. And so I called them up and they said, yep, we'll have a technician over. They looked at it, couldn't figure it out. They replaced the entire pump. They said, you know what? So that was customer service. That was the store who knows that I've bought from them, made me happy. And it wasn't, I didn't have to chase them. They did the right thing. So they understood their customer. Well, as a managed service provider, you have to understand your customer, and everybody from small, medium to large businesses, they all have different needs, but at the end of the day, the expectation is the same. How do you fulfill their needs? Is it being able to be on that call within 90 seconds? Is it being able to answer a chat in under 30 seconds? Is it making that customer feel like they're important and not like they're a waste of time? So there's a lot of information that we share together. And when we work with our MSPs, we gather that information, we figure out what's most important to them. So how does GMS help you? At the end of the day, we're a 20-year-old company. We've got operational maturity, been doing help desk for many, many years, 24/7 support, fully North American based. With NOC support, we can do it through phone, through chat. We bi-directional integrations with your PSAs, most PSAs and RMMs, from Autotask to ConnectWise to Zendesk and Freshdesk. My team, we've got an exceptional reputation, about 150 employees, as mentioned, 100% North American. And I'm really curious to see what happens in 2019's numbers. And we'll know that, in about 6 months from now. But in 2018, we handled over 500,000 tickets and hit a resolution rate of 94%. That's outstanding. As a matter of fact, I just did a review with one of my partners recently, and from an escalation standpoint, we look at 85% first call resolution. We're at 90. So again, very good at what we do, but again, nobody's perfect. That's for sure. Now, the service desk is 24/7, 365. There you go. 85% of the issues resolved by GMS. We can do it any way you want. You want us to do 24/7, 365? No problem. You want us to do after hours, weekends? Fine, whatever works for you. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be a mix of everything. Again, covering all devices and applications, got that bi-directional integration with your PSA. And so whatever you're using, as long as we have a connector with it, we'll do our best to work with it. IT Glue is an essential part of what we work with as well, just so we have native bi-directional integration in our documentation platforms. And when we talk about mentor pods, where it says built-in quality control, we don't give you 125 frontline agents to work with. We give you a smaller team, generally between 7 to 10 frontline help desk mentors, because we know that we want that level of familiarity to build with your customer. So chances are they'll talk to John or talk to Tony or Samantha multiple times, instead of playing Russian roulette or however you want to phrase it. So we try to build that level into our teams. Now, of course, if we've got 10 folks on the phones or on chat at the same time, it'll roll over to the 11th, because we're there to hit that SLA for you. But at the end of the day, you're not dealing with a massive team. You're dealing with a nice compact team. And the other thing too, we don't generally raise our rates and surprise you with it. The goal is actually to lower the cost to you over time. And the way we do that is in our pricing model. And we look at what we call utilization. So if you're not using as much of our time, we don't need to charge you as much per user. If you're using more of our time, well, then that cost will increase. But we know where you should be from a utilizations perspective. I go through this exercise with my prospective partners, as well as my partners that I have currently right now. And we take a look at what the numbers are, and we work to make sure that you're not paying for what you're not using. And that's what we prefer to do. Just get the cost down over time. So control the bottom line. This is how you can do it with an outsourced model. If you got service desk, you've got 24/7 coverage with, again, all the devices. Focus your team on what they really want to be doing, and let us worry about the level 1 support. If you want us to do your NOC services, we can take care of your scripts and your patches and your updates, and we can monitor your networks and remediate and trend analysis, take care of all of that. And listen, if that's not what you need, but you want some a la carte services just by doing some patching and monitoring, absolutely, folks, we'll do that for you. We can do projects for you, upgrades, deployments. We got you covered. So it's not just one service. You can kind of pick and choose what's best for you. Now, we talk about certification training for our frontline mentors. And believe it or not, that's not a typo. Our most senior tech holds about 80 plus certifications.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he's actually closer to 89, somewhere around there. But they're good. They're really good. So from Microsoft Gould, Cisco CCNA, AWS, ITAR, they're very good. Office 365, we can do that all day long, up and down. That's what we do. And the thing that I love about our company is my CEO. He actually requires his mentors to take 2 courses per year to upgrade their skills. We pay for those courses that they take. And basically, at the end of the day, we say, look, we give you a bonus for passing, a raise in salary, and then we encourage you to take more courses. Give us the bill, and we'll pay for that too. So we really have that integration built in with our mentors, because we put time and effort into their partnerships. We know that they want to grow with us, and there's really no substitute for good talent. And we're very proud that we have that talent. Now, if you want to get in touch with us here at GMS, you can do so a couple different ways. If you're in Canada, 905-286-3801. Down in the States, 443-960-8989. Or if you want to send us an email to sales@globalmentoring.com, you could do so as well. And we will be happy to reach out and have a chat with you. And I really want to stipulate something that I think is very important. We've been doing this a long time. We understand the MSP space, and this is not a hard sell for you. If this is something that you've been thinking about doing and you're not sure, let's sit down and talk about it. I mean, there's no pressure to put a pen to paper. If this is, a month or 2 or 6 or whatever months out, that's fine, folks. It's just making you feel comfortable with what we can do, doing an analysis of the business, looking after some pain points that you have. And if this is the right fit for you, well, then hopefully we've done our job. But if not, at least we've learned about each other's company. And at the end of the day, that's all we can ask for. So if there are any questions, Maddie, you can get them to us. Again, you want to get in touch with us, sales@globalmentoring.com, or give us a call at 443-960-8989, in Canada at 905-286-3801. I have given you some time if there's any questions, but that's my spiel, folks.
Thank you so much, Randy. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I will say that, I often hear, I travel around the country and I teach small businesses in particular on how to be more responsive to leads and to clients. You're teaching on the technical side of outsourcing. And what I think we both agree on is that the opportunity and the risk is much greater, and their loss is much greater when you overstretch your team and when you miss opportunities to serve and deliver technical service or respond to potential clients than if you outsource and you stumble a little bit on the way. We find that people who start to outsource never go back because their eyes are open and they see how incredibly beneficial and productive and how great the professionalism is of it, and the continuity, the consistency. So if you are on the fence and if you're not quite sure if it's within your comfort zone, there's only one way to take advantage of this sort of gain in efficiency, gain in productivity, which often yields a gain in profitability. And that's to get started. The risk is really low. And I encourage you to push your comfort zone and use the services that Randy and I are sharing as opportunities with you today, because there is massive potential for more efficient operations, better use of time at your firm, and greater profits. So thank you so much for joining us. As Randy mentioned, you can get in touch by the phone number on the screen and the email on the screen. You can get in touch with us if you visit smith.ai. And also, you're welcome to email me, Maddie@smith.ai. And the recording will be available to those of us who are able to join and who weren't. So no worries if you missed it. I hope that you enjoy the recording and that you'll get in touch with any questions and we can help you get started. Take care.